The story begins with a television report covering a fried chicken shop called Chungyang Chicken that has recently gone viral. The owner is a 23-year-old woman named Roo-mi. Back when she was just starting out, Roo-mi ran the business with her mother, selling from small street stalls before it finally grew into a busy and successful shop. But that success does not last long. The entire shopping area where Roo-mi runs her business is suddenly purchased by a company called Tyson Construction. Their plan is to demolish every store in the area, including Roo-mi's shop, and turn it into a tourist complex. The problem is that neither Roo-mi nor the other vendors receive any form of compensation. They are expected to leave with nothing. Because of that, Roo-mi and the other shop owners refuse to move. They decide to stay and fight until their demands are heard. Unfortunately, Tyson Construction refuses to negotiate. Things grow even worse when the contractors they hire begin using dirty tactics to force the vendors out, starting with intimidation and eventually turning to violence. One night, dozens of men storm Roo-mi's shop. At the same time, her mother, who has just returned from the market, rushes in to protect her daughter. In the chaos, one of the men violently drags her away, causing her head to slam into the ground. The impact causes severe brain trauma, and tragically, she does not survive. At that very same moment, a meteor crashes into a mountain. Its radiation seeps into the ground, spreads through the roots of the trees, and eventually contaminates a natural water source. That water is unknowingly consumed by a man named Seok-heon. The taste feels strange, yet strangely enough, no one else who drinks it afterward feels anything unusual. Seok-heon works as a security guard, though he has a bad habit of sneaking a few coffee packets meant for customers. Not long after drinking the strange water, his stomach begins to hurt badly. After finishing work, he buys a bottle of soju, but the pain only gets worse. Suddenly, objects around him begin to float and move on their own. The shop owner panics and assumes Seok-heon is drunk, kicking him out immediately. The strange events do not stop there. When Seok-heon gets back to his rented room and reaches for a lighter that is slightly out of reach, it moves toward him by itself. Confused and terrified, he tries to process what is happening. In the middle of that moment, his phone rings. It is Roo-mi calling to tell him that her mother has passed away. That is when the truth comes out. Seok-heon is Roo-mi's biological father. 13 years ago, when she was only 10, he divorced her mother and left the family behind. Now, after all those years, father and daughter are reunited under the weight of grief and loss. And that is where everything begins. This is psychokinesis. Unexpectedly, the contractors arrive as well, led by their boss, Mr. Min. He tries to offer condolence money, but it is immediately rejected. Thankfully, a man named Kim Jong-hyun steps in and manages to calm the situation before it turns even worse. In the end, Mr. Min and his men are forced to leave. Jong-hyun turns out to be a lawyer who supports Roo-mi and the other vendors. When he realizes that Seok-heon is Roo-mi's father, he introduces himself and invites Seok-heon to visit Roo-mi's shop. Along the way, he explains what has really been happening behind the scenes. However, Seok-heon does not seem very interested in the bigger picture or the fate of the other vendors. The only thing that truly matters to him is his daughter's safety. At the same time, he cannot ignore how useless he feels as a father, especially when he remembers the disappointment on Roo-mi's face. Frustrated with himself, he throws away the cigarette in his hand. Suddenly, the pile of trash beside him is violently pushed aside. Shocked, Seok-heon returns to his small rental room and tests his ability again using a lighter. Just as before, it moves exactly the way he wants it to. Other objects around him begin to float as well. Realizing the power he now possesses, Seok-heon decides to put it to use. He signs up to perform at a well-known nightclub. After showing a glimpse of his abilities to the manager, he is immediately accepted, and his excitement quickly grows. The next day, Roo-mi and lawyer Jong-hyun meet with a prosecutor to discuss the autopsy results of her mother. The plan is to use those results as evidence to sue Tyson Construction. Unfortunately, the findings alone are not strong enough. They still need more proof to build a solid case. Later, back at the base camp, Roo-mi meets her father again. He asks to speak with her privately and confidently shows off his powers by making objects float around the shop. Instead of being impressed, Roo-mi becomes even more irritated. Seok-heon explains that all he wants is for Roo-mi to live with him and continue her studies. Deep down, he just wants to return to his role as a father. But Roo-mi, overwhelmed with emotion, brings up the day he abandoned her and her mother. She reminds him that he left because he was drowning in debt after his business failed. The result is painful. Roo-mi, the only family he has left, becomes deeply disappointed in him, even growing to resent him. Seok-heon can only lower his head in silence. Then suddenly he notices Mr. Min and his group moving toward a certain location. Sure enough, dozens of construction workers storm the base camp. Roo-mi and the other vendors quickly form a barricade, doing everything they can to stop them from advancing. But they are badly outnumbered and quickly overwhelmed. Just when things seem hopeless, Seok-heon arrives. With a single movement of his hand, the attackers are instantly thrown aside. At one point, one of the workers is turned into a public spectacle, becoming the center of everyone's attention. Unfortunately, the chaos is cut short when two police officers arrive at the scene. Everyone is then taken to the police station. Mr. Min immediately plays the victim, even though he and his men were clearly the ones responsible. Despite the existence of video evidence, it is still not clear enough to take action. And in the end, the police simply tell everyone to disperse. Even so, the vendors feel a sense of satisfaction. For the first time, they see those cruel men suffer the consequences of their actions. They also feel relieved knowing they now have Seok-heon standing as their shield. As if to prove it, Seok-heon once again shows his power. He builds a massive barricade by stacking piles of scrap materials, even lifting a contractor's vehicle and fusing it into the structure. The sight is so shocking that 4 of the workers on duty resign on the spot. At the same time, Mr. Min receives a phone call. The caller is someone from Taesan Construction inviting him to lunch. The next day, Roo-mi is invited by her father to eat noodles together at a nearby food stall. Even though she still feels awkward, she worries about his condition. She fears that overusing his powers might cause serious side effects, so she asks him to see a doctor just to be safe. Elsewhere, Mr. Min and Hang-ho attend a lunch meeting with a high-ranking executive from Taesan Construction, Director Hong. At first, Mr. Min believes it is just a casual meeting, but he quickly realizes how wrong he is. Moments later, several men storm in and brutally beat him. Behind her charming smile and playful personality, Director Hong is ruthless and merciless. She does not hesitate to punish those she considers incompetent.
이런 일로 또 고소하는 미친놈들이 있어서요.
She already knows about the incidents that have been delaying the demolition, including the death of Roo-mi's mother and the sudden appearance of a man with supernatural powers. Using her wealth and influence, she claims she can erase both problems with ease. The next day, 2 police officers suddenly arrive at the base camp to arrest Seok-heon. The reason given is his past habit of stealing coffee sachets while working as a security guard. With Seok-heon gone, the vendors lose the one person protecting them. What they do not realize is that this moment marks the beginning of a much bigger disaster. Not long after the arrest, lawyer Jung-hyun receives a call from the same prosecutor he met earlier. He is told something shocking. Someone has suddenly turned himself in, claiming to be responsible for the death of Roo-mi's mother. Jung-hyun is stunned when he learns the truth. While Mr. Min was meeting with Director Hong, she secretly paid someone to act as a scapegoat for the crime. With this, the case is reframed as a personal incident between the accused and the victim, cutting all ties to Taesan Construction. As a result, Roo-mi and the vendors lose their chance to file a lawsuit. At the same time, Seok-heon's arrest is also part of Director Hong's plan, likely carried out through corrupted officers she paid off. It does not stop there. Director Hong also orders Mr. Min to make his company appear bankrupt, then quickly set up a new office. The goal is to hand over the demolition work directly to the police. With all of Director Hong's plans in motion, Jung-hyun quickly calls Roo-mi to tell her the harsh truth. There is no longer any chance of winning. At the same time, a massive police force arrives at the site, bringing heavy machinery with them. Chaos erupts instantly. Roo-mi and the remaining vendors refuse to back down and begin fighting back by throwing Molotovs. But it is useless. The heavy equipment easily tears through the barricades they worked so hard to build, triggering massive explosions. While all of this is happening, Seok-heon is still being held at the police station. There he is brought face to face with director Hong. Ever since seeing him in the video footage, she has been fascinated by his psychic powers. She even offers to recruit him as her subordinate, promising him an enormous salary so he will no longer need to interfere with the eviction. She gives him time to think and tells him to contact her once he makes a decision. As Seok-heon is about to be locked in a cell, he sees a news broadcast showing what is happening at the scene. At that moment, the image of Roo-mi as a child flashes through his mind. He remembers the mistake he once made and knows he can never allow it to happen again. His emotions explode. In an instant, he shatters the handcuffs in the cell holding him. Before leaving, he gives director Hong a final message by crushing her car into a twisted wreck. Then he launches himself into the air. Even though he looks powerful, he still struggles to control his abilities, crashing into buildings as he flies. But with pure determination, he quickly adapts and heads straight toward the disaster zone. At the scene, Roo-mi and the vendors are pushed to their limits, especially after the earlier explosion. Flames spread rapidly and begin consuming the surrounding buildings. At the same time, police forces below use heavy machinery to reposition their units into hard-to-reach areas. When the vendors try to escape toward the rooftop, one of them attempts to hold back the police but nearly falls. Just in time, Seok-heon arrives to save him. Thick smoke fills the air, reducing visibility to almost nothing. Because of this, Seok-heon nearly crashes into a container and ends up bursting into one of the floors, where he comes face to face with the riot police. Meanwhile, Roo-mi and the trapped vendors receive help from Jong-hyun, who extends a ladder so they can cross to the neighboring building. But the danger is far from over. At the same moment, police who climbed up using the container rush in, restrain Roo-mi, and brutally beat the vendors around her. Back to Seok-heon, after the riot police are taken down, he quickly flies up to the rooftop to deal with the remaining officers. At the same time, he moves the trapped vendors to the neighboring building to keep them safe. Suddenly, an accident happens when heavy machinery slams into part of the structure, causing a container to swing violently and nearly knock a police officer off balance. Even then, Roo-mi still chooses to help, and together with other officers, she tries to steady the situation. Seeing this, Seok-heon steps in and attempts to move the container to a safer position. But in that exact moment, he loses his footing and accidentally drops Roo-mi. Fortunately, he reacts fast enough to catch her midair, keeping her safe before securing her along with the other vendors. After that, Seok-heon decides to turn himself in. He knows the chaos will never end unless someone takes responsibility. The police can only stare in disbelief as they watch him hover in the air. Time passes, and 4 years go by with Seok-heon serving his sentence. During that time, many things change, including Jong-hyun, who eventually marries Roo-mi. One day, the two of them stop by an empty piece of land in the middle of the city. The place feels strangely familiar because it used to be the area where the vendors once stood before being forced out by Taesan Construction. During the redevelopment, Taesan faced countless problems. Now Roo-mi and the other vendors have moved to a new commercial area that is just as lively as before. Among all the shops, Roo-mi's stands out the most. Her brand has also changed, no longer called Chungyang Fried Chicken, but now known as Super Fried Chicken. The story ends with Seok-heon showing off his abilities one last time. Even after 4 years have passed, his powers have not faded, and he can still move objects effortlessly without ever touching them. So the moral of the story is never abandon your kid, never trust shady corporations, and definitely never drink mystery water unless you want superpowers and chaos.